So, California is trying to regulate Linux? And let that sink in for just a second, guys. A state government, the same state that can't seem to figure out how to keep the lights on or, is on fire every couple of months, has passed a law that legally requires open source operating system developers, including hobbyists, to build in age verification systems into that software or face fines per child. And if you're thinking, well, that only affects California residents, no, it doesn't, sadly. Sit down and buckle up because this one has some real teeth to it, and we're not going to pull on every single one of them, but I am going to break down exactly what this law says, why it is technically absurd, why the privacy implications are genuinely alarming, and what's already happening in response. Because one BSD project already told California to go pound sand. Stay with me, guys, because this is getting wild. Okay, so the law in question is California Assembly Bill 1043, officially called the Digital Age Assurance Act. You can read the full text for yourself. I'll link it in the description. And Governor Gavin Newsom signed this into law on October 13th, 2025. It takes effect January 1st, 2027, which, for those of you keeping track, is less than a year away. The stated goal, as always, is to protect children from harmful content online, which sounds noble, right? We all want to protect the kids. Great. We love that for us. But there's a problem, because there's always a problem when you are pushing these types of laws under the guise of protecting children. And it's the mechanism they choose to achieve that goal. The law requires, and I'm going to be quoting directly from the bill here, that an operating system provider shall, not should, shall, okay, provide, quote, an accessible interface at account setup that requires an account holder or indicate the birth date, age, or both of the user of that device for the purpose of providing a signal regarding the user's age bracket to applications available in a covered application store. A lot of words there. But basically what they're saying is you set up your OS and then you are immediately asked for your age, and then the OS is required to maintain a real-time API live standardized interface that broadcasts your age bracket to every app that asks for it. This is convoluted and complicated, and I miss the days when you didn't need your email address to set up Windows. It wasn't even that long ago. You had that little option in the bottom that says proceed without a Microsoft account. Yeah, that seems to be gone now. So there are 4 age brackets that they are requiring under the age of 13, 13 to 15, 16 to 17, and 18 plus. And according to the law, every app in a covered app store can query the OS for which bucket you're in, and without you explicitly consenting to each individual app doing so, check on your age. Let's talk about who operating system providers actually includes. So when most people hear operating system, they think Microsoft, maybe Apple, and yeah, Windows already just nags you for your date of birth during account setup and wants to eat your firstborn child, not even just, have your firstborn child. And then Apple's ecosystem is like just this walled garden city, and these will both comply, right? That's fine. But the bill's language doesn't say Microsoft and Apple. It says all operating system providers, which means Windows, macOS, Linux, FreeBSD, SteamOS, and any open source OS. This is insane. This is genuinely stupid. Leave Linux alone. Linux is not a company. There is no Linux Inc. headquarters in Sacramento that you can serve this ridiculous subpoena to. The Linux kernel is developed by thousands of amazing contributors across the planet. Individual distributions or distros like Ubuntu, Fedora, Arch, Mint are maintained by communities, nonprofits, and in some cases just people. Sometimes one person even, and sometimes it's just a guy in his garage who really likes terminal emulators. And now California is telling that poor guy You need to build age verification into your OS installer and have it like an always online little pinging server for this, or you'll be fine. What? Leave Linux alone. It's our last bastion of freedom if we want to untether ourselves from these extremely egregious and corrosive operating systems. If I could do what I'm doing now on my Windows machine on a Linux distro, which is super, super close, I'd be out of Windows. A lot of my other systems are not using Windows. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there, but this might kill my dream, okay? California might be killing my dream because these fines, straight from the bill, here are the fines. $2,500 per affected child for each negligent violation and $7,500 per affected child for each intentional violation. How they're gonna decide between the two? I guess Gavin's gonna choose. But I mean, per child, just for example, multiply that across even a small user base in California. A solo developer, poor garage guy, maintaining a Linux distro could be looking at financial ruin for simply not adding code they have no idea how to add or no desire to add, or can't have the stupid server interface that's always online. Like, it's not as simple as just adding like this little age thing that you could just store somewhere in the computer. They need it to be pingable. Now you need server infrastructure. And like, Linux software was never really designed to work this way. And let's just set aside the enforcement absurdity for a second here and talk about what this law actually creates from, I don't know, a privacy standpoint. The OS level age signal isn't just a one-time check during setup. The law requires a reasonably consistent real-time application programming interface, meaning this age bracket becomes a persistent queryable data point baked into your operating system. Every app that wants to know your age bracket can ask. Your OS will tell them. And now the law doesn't require, at least currently, face scans or government ID, because like I could just lie about my birthday, right? But the law does carve out some liability protections for operators making good faith efforts for now. And here's the thing, it creates the architecture for something much bigger, because once that API exists, once the plumbing is in place, expanding what it transmits is just a software update away in the minds of these idiotic lawmakers. The Lunduke Journal pointed out exactly this. The vague wording of AB 1043 is a blueprint, not a ceiling. And we've seen this playbook before. You build the pipe and then you fill it. Now think about what Discord's age verification in the UK looked like. Security researchers found that the verification provider they were using, Persona, was running 269 individual verification checks on user data, including checks tied to terrorism watch lists and espionage records for an age check. An age check, guys. We all know what this is doing under the guise of protecting children. And California, for its part, passed this bill unanimously, both parties, 0 dissent, which tells you one of two things. Either every single legislator in Sacramento fully understood this law and thought it was fine, or nobody actually. I'll let you guess which one, based on your level of faith in our current government system. But there is a little bit of a beautiful side to this whole asinine situation in California. The Linux community's immediate reaction was basically, cool law, we're not doing that. Linux be still my heart. Over on the Linux Mint subreddit, for example, user Kato Duma, I love usernames, they're fun to try to pronounce, put it plainly, saying even if Mint added age verification to comply with California law, to quote, there's no reason anyone would choose that version. Which, yeah, that's kind of the thing about open source and why I love open source. You can't force a fork, right? Like if Linux Mint ships a California compliant ISO, someone will just ship a non-compliant ISO the next day. Like the law has no mechanism to stop that. Or, you know, maybe some of us tech-savvy people are able to code around it even when we have it installed. I mean, what are they gonna do about that? It's my own computer. Am I gonna get fined? There's no kids in this house. Like, whatever. Come on, Gavin. But the best response, I think, comes from MidnightBSD. MidnightBSD is a BSD-based operating system, and Their response to this law was to modify their license to explicitly exclude California residents from using MidnightBSD for desktop use effective, guess when? January 1st, 2027. The exact quote saying, "Until we have a better plan, we modified our license to exclude residents of California from using MidnightBSD for desktop use effective January 1st, 2027. Boom, that state just got banned from an operating system. California got ELA'd. Like, I don't know what's funny or terrifying or both, probably both. Now, my heart does hurt for the people of California who want the freedom of using their own operating system, but I mean, this is peak FAFO here, F around, find out. And for, all these big businesses and governments loving their EULAs, like, yeah, get EULA'd. California is not, obviously it's not all of California, whatever. Okay, now here's where this stops being a California only problem, because that's only a temporary solution, to be real. Because first, California's market size is the largest state economy in the United States and one of the largest in the world. So when California mandates something, companies frequently comply nationally. It's just not cost effective to ship different versions of your software for different states. So what California demands, everyone often ends up getting, and that's not hypothetical. It's actually documented in tech policy history. So I'll put some links in the description if you want to read more about that. But second, Colorado is right behind them, because of course they are. Colorado has a Senate Bill 26-051 titled Age Attestation on Computing Devices, which would require exactly the same thing. OS level age verification, similar fine structure for the entire state. It hasn't passed yet, but it's in motion and I hate it. And Colorado matters because, like California, a ton of tech and software developers have offices or legal presence there. So if both states pass and enforce similar laws, an indie developer maintaining an open source OS could be catching fines from two directions simultaneously. Louis Rossman, the right to repair advocate, weighed in on this too, and he flagged something important. The law assumes most software distribution happens through app stores, but there's a huge ecosystem of software that doesn't use app stores. The law doesn't cleanly account for that. And of course, a minor can just type a fake birthday. There's no verification of the verification. At the moment, it's performative compliance, not actual protection. Even Governor Newsom himself acknowledged in his signing message that the law may need further refinement and asked the legislature to address some of the framework issues in 2026. He signed a law he admitted wasn't finished. If that isn't just peak California, I don't know what else is. But look, I'm not going to sit here and say protecting kids online is stupid. It's not. Kids shouldn't be stumbling into content designed for adults. There's a real argument that maybe the adults in the room should parent their children better. But I do get why legislators want to address some of these problems, but this law doesn't actually solve that problem. In fact, so far, I don't really see any law claiming to solve this problem as solving this problem, because what it's actually doing is creating a surveillance infrastructure and calling it child safety. Because here's why. One, there's no identity verification. You type in a birthday, just any birthday, and the OS accepts it. And a curious 11-year-old who wants to lie about their age is just going to lie about their age. Duh. This has been true of every age gate ever built on the internet, and it will continue to be true here. Two, the real vector for harmful content reaching kids isn't the OS setup screen. It's social media, it's app content, it's recommendation algorithms, it's a lack of parental parenting. I get the world is busy, but it's lack of parents being involved here. And this law doesn't touch any of this in any meaningful way. It slaps a "you must be this tall to ride" sign on the OS installer and calls it a day. And then three, the burden falls on the wrong people. A 15-person nonprofit maintaining a Linux distro shouldn't be on the hook for fines that could bankrupt them, while the actual platform serving harmful content to children continue to operate at scale. Looking at you, Roblox. This is, to put it charitably, a law that was written by people who don't understand the technology that they're regulating. And I don't mean to say that entirely as an insult. I mostly say it because of the consequences with that gap are real and they land on the open source community hardest. But if you want to be, I don't know, insulted, that's fine too. So at the end of the day, where does this land us? The California bill here is real. It's law. It goes into effect in less than a year, and it requires every operating system, Linux included, to implement age verification APIs at account setup with financial penalties and non-compliance that could genuinely destroy small developers, open source maintainers, and poor guy in his garage. Leave poor guy in his garage alone. The community is already pushing back, and MidnightBSD just literally even banned California from using their operating system. Other distros are watching, and Colorado is doing Colorado things and looking at doubling down. The broader pattern here is exactly what we talk about on this channel: well-intentioned corporate and government overreach that shouldn't happen. It doesn't actually protect people, but does create new surveillance architecture, new compliance burdens, and new pressure on the open ecosystems that give people actual choice over their technology. And let's be real, maybe that's why they're actually doing it. Keep an eye out. I have a Palantir video coming out soon. But in the meantime, if you're a developer or a distro maintainer who's watching this go down, this is a mess, and it landed in your lap at no fault of your own. But go ahead and drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to know what the Linux community is planning here. If you have a favorite Linux distro, that would be fun to find out. Let's create a little community in the comments of your favorite distro. I personally do use Ubuntu. And hey, I'm open to try other distros. Just let me know below. And if you're a maintainer of a distro, I want to hear from you as well. But anyway, go ahead and like and subscribe if this kind of tech accountability and talking about like AI and gaming and all that seems to jive with you. If you do not subscribe though, I might be forced to banish you to the Shadow Realm. Anyway, that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and peace out.